Sabia Wade is a Black queer CEO, investor, author, educator, and full spectrum doula. They are the founder of Birthing Advocacy Doula Trainings and For the Village, a nonprofit providing doulas to marginalized communities. Sabia is dedicated to reproductive justice and serves as a coach, board member, and consultant in the birth and reproductive health industry. Their latest venture, Loads of Pride, centers on providing jobs for the Black, Indigenous, and people of color and queer individuals in the trucking industry. So without further ado, please help me welcome Sabia Wade.
Hey everyone, it's the music for me. How's everyone feeling? How you doing? Throw that in the chat. One thing I want you to know is that this presentation will be interactive. And I want to check in on my time. I'm ending at 10 past the hour, right? Just to be sure, because I will talk forever. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Feeling good? Not so good? Something in between? I'd like to check in before we spend our time together. Yes. Okay. Feeling great. I love that. Feeling good too. I worked out this morning, self-care, anxiety care, you know what I mean? So I'm like hype. So we can so you're gonna feel my hypeness as we move through our time together. Can we start sharing my slides, please? Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you for that. That update. Let's go. So can we go to the next slide, please? So you already had a brief introduction to me, but the things that I will say about myself is that I am a dog mom of two. I'm also a co-parent of two children, 5 and 11. Me and my friend co-parent platonically. I believe in family building in whatever ways feel fit to you. For my astrology people, I'm a double Sag Gemini moon. That may tell you a lot. Um, I'm also the author of Birth and Liberation, which just came out in March. And that has been going really well. So we're actually going to be talking about some content from my book, actually. Let's see, can we go to the next slide, please? So these are the things we're going to be talking about today. Introduction, a little breath work. We'll make that kind of quick because of our time. Equitable perinatal care, healthy communities, liberation, personal and professional collective liberation. And then we will also have time for a Q&A. And so please, 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 like if you have any questions, anything that comes up, slide that into the Q&A. Nothing is off for me. If it's something I don't feel comfortable answering, I'll let you know, but I highly doubt it. If you've been in space with me before, you know that I believe in high level of transparency. So can we get to our next slide? All right, so if you can, I just want you to find a comfortable space for yourself. I know there's been a lot of high energy here, but I want us to be able to zone in our conversation today. So if you can, I want you to just find some stillness in your body. You're welcome to close your eyes or leave your eyes open, whatever works for you. While you're here, find whatever movement you need to bring into your body. Maybe that's, moving your neck around, moving those shoulders up to your ears and dropping them. And then I want you to find some breath. And I just want you to take some deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Each breath finding more room and space and expansion in your body. allowing your pelvic floor to drop. Breathing in some oxygen into your heart. Dropping your shoulders. Relax in the bottoms of your feet. And on these last 2 breaths, I just want you to say something kind to yourself. And before you move forward, you can start opening your eyes, looking around the room, orienting yourself. Can you please share in the chat what kind message you gave to yourself? Because some of you probably didn't, but I'm still going to hold you accountable. So, so if you can just put whatever message you said to yourself or whatever message you need to hear, even if you didn't say anything to yourself. You are beautiful, not making me emotional. Listen, that's my specialty. You're a rock star. You are enough. You are worthy of good things. I'm amazing. You are home. I am resourceful. I am awesome. I'm appreciated. I'm gonna give y'all a card too while we're here. My baby mom just bought me these new cards and they're beautiful. So we're gonna pull one. And it's just like affirmation cards. I am necessary. I'm learning, and that is the step. Yes, I am enough. Yes. Okay. Okay. So our card for today is going to be I am unlearning lack and scarcity. Abundance is a frequency I will vibe on. Okay. That's our card for today, along with the messages and the things that you have put across. I'll put that on the screen. Read that. Read that. Take that in. Take that in before we get into our content. Okay, period. Next, can I get my next slide, please? Okay, so where does quality perinatal care begin? So I'm asking that question to you. Where do we think quality perinatal care begins? Where does it begin? And again, there's no wrong answer. Within, oh, I love that. You've been in the space with me before? Oh, hello. What's some more answers to that question? At home, in the womb, in a community before getting pregnant, community. I love that. Can I get to my next slide, please? So in my book, I have a chapter named Healthy Community, Healthy Parent, Healthy Baby. And the quote that is there from Coretta Scott King is, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members." Can we move to the next slide, please? So when we think about, thank you. So we think about where does equitable care begin, right? One of the things that I think can be really harmful to people, right? And even to individuals, especially to parents, is that they are the all knowing, all responsible, all being for creating a healthy perinatal care experience, having a healthy baby, having a good pregnancy, having a great postpartum period, whatever the case is, right? So we have this idea in our general world that it starts with the health of the parent, health of the baby, and then when these two people are healthy, we create a healthy community, right? And so for me, I'm like, nah, cut that. I don't like that, right? And I don't like that because I feel like in order for people to have for there to be a healthy parent, one, we have to have a healthy community, right? It starts with the community. That is the beginning of this cycle. If we can have a healthy community, and we'll talk about what that looks like, then we can have a healthy parent, and then we can have a healthy baby, right? So when I'm asking you the question of where does equitable perinatal care start from, it starts from our community. Okay, so now let's move to the next slide to think about what does an actual healthy community consist of, right? So these are the 9 pieces, and I'll go through them kind of quickly for time purposes. But one thing, it needs to have quality healthcare, right? So patient-centered, culturally congruent medical and mental health care. The next thing is quality education, community-led, restorative justice practicing, trauma-informed education. Then we go to, so I'm gonna move this up over here. Then we have adequate employment and job opportunities, right? Equitable pay, reasonable commute, opportunities for advancement. Then we have safe and healthy physical environments, right? Complete with drinkable running water, electricity, etc. Then we have public transportation because people have to get to where they need to get to, right? Like when we talk about a healthy parent, it's like, do they have opportunity to work? Do they have opportunity to not have to drive or be in a commute for 2 hours, right? In order to get there. And also, how much does that cost? So we need public transportation, right? Something that's accessible. Okay, it doesn't take a thousand years to get where you need to get. And it's also accessible to people with disabilities. We also need high quality nutrition, no more food deserts, health education for the community. We need art and culture, community-led celebration of culture through the arts, right? I feel like art is something that we need to be healthy, but we don't get enough of it. And I think sometimes we don't even realize, right, how much creativity really sparks our wellness. Civic engagement, community-led advocacy for change, recreation, access to fun and affordable, healthy activities, right? So again, we're talking about this is what it means for a healthy community to exist, right? These are the pieces that contribute to that. If we think about this just for a second, if you think about your community right now, what do you think is missing from your current community? And how is this impacting people, right? And not just parents, because people start off singular and then they become parents, right? But how is this affecting your community to not have these things in place? Oh, thank you, Chelsea. Also, Markeisha, I hope I'm saying your name right. Have you been in space with me before? I'm trying not to go too hard because I don't have so much time. But what is missing from your community? How is it impacting the people of your community? Transportation. Mm-hmm. Culturally congruent medical care. And I'll also love some input on how this is affecting your community. How does it affect the parents that have the responsibility, right, of having healthy babies? Higher maternal mortality rates, period. Yes, all that. Great community resource, great information. Most people don't even realize that these things are missing. Yes, affordable housing, postpartum support, right? Even when we talk about postpartum support, if we're in the space of wanting to have a healthy parent, right, especially someone who is in their postpartum time and having a healthy baby, not only do they need these resources for themselves, but they also need these resources for their community to be able to actually assist them and supporting them, right? But if people are without good income, without wellness, without arts and culture, without good healthcare for themselves, we can't help the next person if we don't have these things for ourselves. Unbiased care. Support is everything before, during, and after pregnancy. For sure. Okay, we're gonna move into our next activity. So our next activity, we can go to the next slide. I'm gonna need, when we move forward, I'm gonna need a lot of participation. So get ready to type it up. Get ready to type it up. So personal liberation is a choice, right? So I choose every day to be free. Now, I'm making that choice outside of what's around me. Every day in my liberation practice, I choose to be free despite what is happening around me, right? So I want to make that differential because if we're waiting for the world to free us, if we're waiting for politicians, lawmakers, and whatever else is going on, we ain't never going to be free, right? But I choose every day to practice my liberation no matter what, despite what is going on in the world, right? So that means that I am making a choice every day to choose my freedom over everything, right? So personal liberation is a choice. So that's number one. We got to make that choice for ourselves. What does that mean to be a liberated person every single day? What do I do every day to keep my liberation intact? And to give you some examples, that means sometimes that I could go and be in hustle culture, but I'm sitting down, right? I could be stressed over this thing at work, but I'm choosing not to, right? So there's many different ways, right? I could express my gender this way. I could live this way. What is the choice that I'm making for myself and my own happiness? That is my personal liberation, right? But the next step of that is that collective liberation is an intentional communal practice. So collective liberation, all of us working together to create the world that we want, is an intentional communal practice. It's not going to happen because we keep talking about liberation and it's so cool and it's so this and that's cute, right? It has to mean that I'm going to sit down with you and have a conversation with you. We're going to build things with intention. We're also going to fight, right? And we're going to have blow-ups. So we're also going to resolve these blow-ups with intention, because I'm understanding that collective liberation means that we all need to be a part of it. And it's an intentional practice that I'm choosing to be a part of, because my personal liberation is tied to that choice. Right. And then the next thing I want us to emphasize, right, when we're talking about quality, equitable perinatal care, is that it's not created or maintained in isolation. It's not maintained or created in isolation, right? One of the things that is like so, I'll say annoying, trying not to curse here today, because y'all know, if y'all know me in other space, y'all know I be cursing a lot. But right, but when we're talking about perinatal care, we cannot make it so that it's like, you know how like Western medicine, it says like you have a heart doctor, and then you have a lung doctor, and then you have a stomach doctor, and then you have a, OBGYN, and then you have a this and you have a that, right? And then when one thing breaks, they're like, oh, it's because of your heart. Like if your heart breaks, it's just because of your heart. And you're like, no, it's not just because of my heart, it's because of these other pieces. But now I got to go to every other doctor who's going to tell me it's something else. And we never actually look at me as a whole, holistic, whole person, right? And that's the same way that I look at perinatal care, right? It cannot happen in isolation. We cannot look at outcomes, right? When we talk about maternal parent and perinatal health for disparities for Black folks and for Indigenous folks, we cannot look at it and say, oh, it's only one contributing factor. We have to look at the whole system that is around it and say, oh, this breakdown is not happening in isolation, right? It's happening collectively, right? So we're going to talk about our responsibility in this conversation about collective liberation and the ways that we want to move forward. We can move to the next slide. Yes, Markeisha, we friends. Okay. Y'all know I don't know how to act. So, okay. I want you to move your body, shake your body, because we got some questions coming up, and I want y'all to be participants in this, because again, collective liberation is communal, meaning that it is not just my input that's going to make the shift. It's going to be all of our input. So let's start with our personal selves, right? So I want you to get to your personal self, not who you are as a birth worker, not who you are as a parent, not who you are as any of that, right? I want you to be just you, focus on you, right? So my first question to you, or questions to you, is what needs healing? And just think about top of mind, don't get too deep, just what needs healing, right? What tools can you utilize for healing? And how will healing these aspects of your personal self help achieve collective liberation? So I just want you to name what needs healing, if you can, in the chat. My heart, the perspective of productivity, my inner child, moving in direction of wholeness, my heart, fear, loss. My hip, listen, busyness, my heart grieving the loss of my mother, rest in peace to her. Family, mindset. Who else has some answers for that? Support. Very much so. Expectations. For sure. We could stay here all day, but we can't today. So can we get to my next slide, please? Letting go of control, my idea of rest, myself overall. Also, Melba, yourself overall, I don't really like that answer because you are not fundamentally flawed. And I don't want you to think that. You are not fundamentally flawed. Maybe there are parts of yourself that needs healing and practice and love and care, but you yourself as a whole, ain't nothing wrong. There's nothing, you're not fundamentally flawed. So maybe there's pieces of you, but you as yourself, you're amazing. My idea of being productive. Yes. So now we're going to talk about our professional selves, because I know I have a bunch of birth workers here, a lot of people in that space, right? So now think about these spaces of being a professional. What elements of your professional life are hurting or helping the collective toward liberation, right? So I'll give you some examples. When we talk about our professional selves, is it, for some of us, it's like savior complex. I think that can go and save everyone. I'm working too much, right? I'm working competition. That is a good one, right? My brain goes to competition. I'm comparing myself. Confidence. I need to heighten my confidence. The systems who control funding. I need more funding, right? Overprotective, confidence, right? And I really want you to think about in these things, right? When we're talking about being overprotective in our profession, when we're talking about working too much, right? To not let my clients down, thinking that I can do it all. How is that helping or hurting the collective? Right. So for the people who are like, I know that I can do it all and I'm working too much, I'll give you some examples of how it can be potentially hurting the collective. Right. Because what that means is when you're overworking, one, your head is not always in the game when you are present. Two, your quality of care is probably not what it needs to be. Three, you're not leading by example, right? We tell our clients, rest, 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 care, care, care for yourself. And then we show up half broken, right? Energetically, what is the impact of that towards the collective, right? Think about these things. Availability of clinical supervision in the birthing world. Yes, that is a chronic problem. For sure, for sure. Who else has some responses to that? Resistance to success and full exposure. Yeah. So when we think about that in our professional selves, where right, it's like if you're not working at your full potential and you're not exposing yourself, how many people in our collective, right, are you not touching that you could be changing lives? Right. And I literally just had a conversation about this and myself the other day, right, with someone that I know, like, oh, I don't know, I want to stay small. And they're like, okay, how many people in the collective are you missing out on helping because you want to stay small because you have a personal fear that you need to work on? Right? So let's go to our next slide, please. And then I want you to think about what is collective liberation to you? Right? How can that be achieved and where can we allow for nuance? Right? So what is collective liberation to you? And when I think about collective liberation and adding that element about nuance, when we're talking about building equitable perinatal care systems, right? If we think that we're all going to sit collectively in a space and agree on everything, we're going to be wrong, right? But right, like if we can work on what does it mean to be in opposition with someone and be on the same mission, right? What does that mean in my definition of collective liberation? Where does my definition of collective liberation add in nuance, add in differences, add in rupture and repair, right? If collective liberation is this like idealistic way of thinking we're all going to get along, it's all going to be great, we ain't never going to achieve that because that's just not humanly possible. So what is your idea of collective liberation? Thank you, Cynthia. I hear y'all thinking, I feel y'all thinking. I need to get some responses though. Recognizing and appreciating our differences and respecting each other's contributions to the community. Yes. Empowering through support. The thing that comes to mind about collective liberation is intention of the village you have, having differences, but executing the change we collectively want. I love that. When there's an ecosystem that is known and trusted to work for all in the community. Exactly, right? And when we're talking about that working for all, one of the things we have to also think about in the vision of collective liberation is that everything's not going to be 100%, right? Like everything's not going to work 100% for everybody. But can we lean into it being 85% for everybody, right? And if 85% is going spread across the community, then it's working, right? Because 100% is going to be damn near impossible. Right, so can we get to the next slide, please? So the thing that I want you to think about, we're talking about building this equitable perinatal care system, right? And we're talking about our personal liberation being a choice, right? And also that next step to maintain our personal liberation is to be in collective liberation intentionally, right? I want you to think about these three overlapping pieces. For you to maintain your own personal liberation, you have to know within what's going on with you, right? Do you have a fear? Do you have something that needs to be healed? Do you have trauma that's moving through, right? Because ultimately that's going to impact the way that you move professionally, right? And the way that trauma shows up professionally is working too much, not believing in ourselves, not having confidence, right? Or trying to save the world, right? All these extremes, right? So how do we make sure that we're working on the personal self to move into this professional space where we're working in perinatal care? And then also, how do we move this professional piece and this personal piece into how we move into collective liberation, right? And if we can do that and we can continue to work on that intentionally, we can continue to build a space that creates equitable, quality perinatal care, right? That is a collective mission that is also maintained through the collective, because we know that in order to maintain that, it's not going to happen in isolation. It's not going to just happen with birth workers, right? It's going to happen beyond us and for us and by us and with us and all around us, right? So that is my presentation for y'all, and I guess I'm open for Q&A. Hopefully that makes sense. And this is my information. If you want to contact me, you can always send me email, follow me on Instagram, my website, my Substack. My Substack has a whole bunch of content, podcasts, all these things, all the things are there. Self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-willingness to be truthful about what is happening. Love it. Thank you. Yes, and if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to drop them into the Q&A. I didn't even know I needed to hear all that, but thank you for reaching that piece of me that has been struggling. Yes.